Hey everybody, this is Dream. Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a nice, small 5-game Major League Baseball slate. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? So this slate features only 5 games. However, all the totals are pretty even, with the exception of the Cubs Pittsburgh game being a little bit lower than the rest. But otherwise, it's pretty even. Though we do have a couple teams that have a high probability of winning, with Houston over Oakland and the Dodgers over Cincinnati. So let's go ahead and get into the slate. Before I do that, though, we will look at our home runs from yesterday. Out of all the games on the main slate yesterday, only 11 home runs, 5 of which we had mentioned as our top or value plays. So that's pretty good. It really wasn't a very home run heavy day. Pitching was kind of a mess yesterday, but overall, it was still a pretty good day for fantasy, and we did okay. So let's go ahead and get into our pitchers here. So our top overall pitcher today is Glass now for the Dodgers. He definitely has the best strikeout rate on the slate by quite a bit. He has really good upside here, and he's facing one of the weaker teams in Cincinnati. So I do like his upside here. He also has absolutely super high 30 plus fantasy point potential today, which he's actually done 4 straight games. And this is the easiest matchup he's had in that stretch. So I do like his upside on this one. He is a core play for me. Also, Christian Javier for Houston is in play against Oakland. Now, Oakland has had some home runs, but he isn't giving up a lot of home runs so far this season. He's given up 3, and he had two in the last game. But before that, he really hadn't done very much. His strikeout rate is inconsistent, but he definitely has the best upside of all the other pitchers on the slate. So he is my secondary option. You could also consider um, Jared Jones against the Cubs, so he is a little bit overpriced today. Chris Criswell for Boston, or sorry, Cooper Criswell for Boston. He's a cheap Hail Mary play, and then Justin Steele is a good contrarian play for the Cubs against Pittsburgh. But I like Glasnow and Javier the best at this point, at least. So let's go ahead and get into our catchers here. Um, we're going to start with Diaz for Houston. Now, he has the best upside on the slate. He has hit a few home runs this year. He's been inconsistent, but he does draw good metrics for this game, and he's priced pretty fairly. If you want to pay up and you can afford to, then you can go to Real Muto for Philly. He has a lot of upside here. He's hitting the ball pretty well lately, and he draws great upside on this one. And then Connor Wong for Boston. He was a great play yesterday. He looked like a great play yesterday. He only ended up with 5 fantasy points. But he has been pretty solid lately, getting at least some fantasy points, and he's dirt cheap today at $3,600, and he does have home run potential as well. If you want a Hail Mary play here, Yasmani Grandal for Pittsburgh will be the guy at just $2,800. He does draw good metrics for this game, though he's a boomer bust play only. Moving to first base, we have a couple of value plays as our top options, one being Michael Busch for the Cubs. Bush looks like he's in a really solid position today, and he's been playing pretty well lately. He also has a lot of home run potential. Connor Joe is a good one-off play for Pittsburgh today. His metrics are really solid, and he's hit the ball very well lately. He jumps off the page as a great play. I don't really see much value in paying up for Ohtani today, as he doesn't have the best metrics, but he is in play every day pretty much because he has multi-hit potential. His price range is extremely expensive, though. And then Yanir Diaz is just a good solid option today for Tampa Bay if you like to go that route. He's hit the ball very well lately. He does draw good metrics, and he has nice home run potential on the slate. Looking at second base, Altuve jumps off the page as the top overall play for this position. He's been absolutely fantastic to start the season. The last few games he's been getting hits, but he hadn't had a home run in a few. I do look for him to get that today and hopefully have nice upside. Palacios for Tampa Bay is another option for the Rays that has some good upside in this game. Not so much home run potential, but just good multi-hit upside on this slate. For value plays at this position, it's very, 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 very rough. But Toro is one guy you could look at. G-Law for Oakland, also a option. And then Grissom for Boston, who really has struggled so far to start the season, but he still contains decent metrics and has some fantasy potential at a dirt cheap price. But I would probably either going to pay up for Altuve or Palacios and then kind of just go from there. Grissom being the kind of the Hail Mary play. Looking at third base, we do like Chris Morel a lot for the Cubs today. I think the Cubs are actually a decent stack, despite the fact that they struggled against Atlanta the last 3 games. for the most part, it looks like they're going to be back on track here against Pittsburgh, and he looks like probably my favorite option from the team. Devers for Boston also looks fantastic today. He has come down in price some, and he has good potential on the slate. He also had a home run yesterday. And then Isaac Paredes for Tampa Bay also looks really solid. I like Tampa Bay Boston options a lot on the slate. But I also like Alex Bregman here at this position. He has been absolutely phenomenal lately as he started the season really rough, but he's really starting to hit the ball well. And so while he's hitting the ball well, he's definitely going to be somebody I'm going to try to roster some. Alec Boom is kind of a Hail Mary option, alternate play that's super expensive, though. But so he is in play, but he does carry some risk. Looking at shortstops, Mookie Betts is the clear cut number one, followed by Ella De La Cruz. Now, Ella De La Cruz mostly just has about just stolen base potential today, but he does have some good home run upside as well, though this game is in LA. For value plays, O'Neill Cruz and Francisco Lindor both draw good metrics today, but not great. They're a little bit pricey for their upside. Jose Caballero, also a little bit risky, but has some potential in a Tampa Bay stack. But the two Hail Mary plays here are Romy Gonzalez. If he draws to draw the start for Boston, he would be somebody I would consider. And then Rafaela for Boston as well also draws some good metrics for this particular game, but he definitely carries some risk as well. With that said, then we're going to get into our outfielders. Our outfielders are pretty interesting today. We have a couple guys. The top three are Cody Bellinger's number one. I really like his upside in this matchup. I think he's going to hit. He's got a lot of home run potential on the slate. I also like Jordan Alvarez at $5,300. He's a little bit underpriced actually for his potential, and then Kyle Tucker, who is a little bit overpriced, despite he's been hitting a lot of home runs, so he does draw a really good upside on the slate, but he's pricey. For the value plays here, Suzuki for the Cubs looks like a good play. Brian Reynolds for Pittsburgh is also somebody I like, though they're both a little bit expensive. Josh Lowe has been really solid lately, and I do like his potential here. Andrew McCutchen also looks interesting for Pittsburgh. Connor Joe, who I already mentioned at first base, can play here in the outfield as well. And then also, let's see here, Mike Tauchman for Chicago Cubs is very interesting. Leviares is a good value play at $3,500. And then Jaron Duran for Boston also has upside. Then if we look at our sub $3,000 players, Yasmani Grandal for Pittsburgh is my favorite sub 3K play as a catcher. If he draws a start, he'll be somebody I would try to consider today. Seth Brown is a very Hail Mary option for Oakland. Michael Taylor can play multiple positions for Pittsburgh. Sorry, no, he can't. He can play outfield today at just $2,500, and he has some potential. Hurt Ibusi has not performed well yet for Cincinnati, but if he can get in the starting lineup, he'll be somebody that you can roster for just $2,000 that has some potential. Grissom is up in play for Boston at $2,500. Majerial for Chicago Cubs also has some upside if he's in the lineup, and he can play second or third base. Keep in mind that these guys all have some favorable ratings. Arenada for Tampa Bay looks really solid today at $2,800 at first base if he ends up drawing a start. Nick Gonzalez for Pittsburgh, also interesting at second base. Romy Gonzalez at shortstop, one of the few guys at shortstop that actually makes okay sense. And then Amaya is another catchy potential guy for the Cubs. This slate does feature a lot of sub 3,000 guys that you can mix in there to help you pay up at other positions. And with pitching not being super expensive, at least that definitely helps with the favorable options as well. Let's look at our stacks today. We have a lot of good stacks on the slate, and I think it's going to be a very fun slate in general for that. So let's look at that here. So for the Dodgers, Mets, Toscar, Pages, Smith, and then either Otani or Freeman. This is Betts, not Mets. Sorry about that. Oops, I can't type. And then for Houston, Alvarez, Tucker, Altuve, Bregman, and Diaz. This is expensive stack, but it does look pretty good today for the Philadelphia Phillies. Boom is my favorite play from the team, followed by Harper, Realmuto, Castellanos, and Sosa. I think this stack is actually pretty doable today. For Boston, it's a little bit expensive at the top with Devers, and Duran, but then you have Abreu and Wong who are cheap, and then you can either mix in one of these other four in Grissom, O'Neill, Gonzalez, or Rafaela. Depending on who starts at shortstop, that's probably where I'm going to go. Looking at Tampa Bay, Lowe, Diaz, Paredes, Palacios, and Arizona. For the Cubs, Bellinger, Morel, Suzuki, Tachman, and Bush. I think this stack is sneaky today. For the Mets, Nemo, Lindor, Alonso, and then either Marte, Batty, Martinez, or McNeil. I think you can mix and match the other two for those in the bottom four there. And then for Pittsburgh, Reynolds, McCutchen, Joe, and then Olivares, Grandal, Taylor, or Cruz. Two of those four will also work out, with Grandal being, I think, one of the best options from that group. For Oakland, Blade, Brown, and Toro all have a lot of upside today, and then Geloff and then either Rooker or Langerlays has some potential as well. And then for Cincinnati, Ella De La Cruz, Hurtabusi, Fraley, Benson, and then either Steer or India. These bottom three stacks are definitely high risk, high reward, as I do like the pitchers against them the best.